The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. Want the real story behind the sound bites and headlines? Let's find the facts. Remember, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. You are not paranoid or confused. You just need to know.
Welcome in, one and all. It is time for Need to Know. Kip Keefer on TKR for another weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about the subject matter I have today because we have entered officially. Settle in, get your popcorn, get your cold drink, get your Raisinets or your Milk Duds. Milk Duds, the most congenial candy. They once said on the show The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon was arguing that Milk Duds are unintimidating and not overly sweet and don't have much personality, which makes them the perfectly compatible candy. Anyway, whatever you need to gather for this showing of the theater of the absurd, that is the theme of this week's Need to Know, because as Washington cranks back up from yet another 2-week holiday, which if you notice in Washington, D.C., there are so many things great about the gig of being a representative of our federal government. One of the biggest is that it shuts down periodically a week or two prior to every single holiday that we observe in this country and just doesn't operate for a couple weeks. Congress is on the 4th of July vacation leave. Congress will reconvene until the 3-week or whatever long it is for the Labor Day holiday period. Now, most people are off on those days. Government shuts down for like 2.5 or 3 weeks. That's just the way it works. So today they're all back in town. It's the first time since the great debate of June 27th, which today we're taping the show here on the 9th. So let's do some quick math. That's 12 days ago. It seems like long time back because it has created the biggest ripple of complete tsunami of different reaction. There have been the immediate reactions and the fallout from that session where Donald Trump basically mopped the floor with the poor, pitiful Joe Biden, who revealed the greatest lie ever told. Remember the greatest story ever told? Well, this is the greatest lie ever told, that Joe Biden is so sharp and so on top of all of the issues, all of his inner circle talking about, I just wish I had 10% of the energy that the president has and his understanding of everything that's going on in the world and all of the great things he's accomplishing. The biggest lie of all time, because Joe Biden, when the lights came on for that debate, let's see, how can I be kind? It was the biggest flop ever. He was absolutely a deer in the headlights. He could not gather his thoughts. He stumbled, bumbled, mumbled throughout the entire 90 minutes. Really did not make any cogent thoughts. It was a complete disaster. Everybody, it was instantly revealed that the emperor was wearing no clothes. The big lie was completely exposed. And I guess that's what you'd be if you're wearing no clothes. But that's exactly what happened. And everybody knows now that all of this BS we've been listening to, as they completely protect him, let him spend 4-day weekends every week in Delaware. You don't see him in the evening segments because it's come out in Axios publication, of course, in D.C. that is left-leaning, to say the least, that aides have said that Joe's best times are between like 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. The preparation at Camp David for the debates some insiders there said they were supposed to go 8 days of preparation. They cut it down to 6 because Joe just couldn't muster the energy for 2 of those days. And in the 6 days, they never, ever started before 11 a.m. and they always finished by 5. And if that's not enough, there was time for a 90-minute nap every afternoon during those 6 days as well. So preparation time, not very thorough. You immediately had members of the inner circle for the Biden team, mainly Dr. Jill Biden, who's got her teaching certificate, but she wants to be called Dr. Jill Biden. She was pretty obscure in the first 3.5 years of this administration. Of course, you saw her at every event, standing at the ready to go and catch Joe if he wandered off in the wrong direction, or grab his arm and lead him off stage in the proper way. So Jill has not been very vocal. Now, all of a sudden, Dr. Jill Biden is a key component in the re-election campaign for Joe Biden. In fact, on this very day, she's traveling to North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida to host political events. I can't imagine the excitement that creates for people to get to go see Dr. Jill Biden. Of course, the candidate himself has put in a couple of days this weekend, which is very unusual. But since they're in absolute desperation mode right now, the appearances of Joe Biden in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania this weekend went, I guess, according to script. Although there have been some stumbles and stammers, as always, that you're going to get from Joe, because the bottom line is the cat is out of the bag. The stripes are off the spots are off the leopard. They've come out in the wash. Joe Biden has quickly advancing cognitive mental issues, and it's undeniable now. He was on full display. I talked about last time we got together that I think part of that was intentional, that people that don't believe that he has what it takes not only to win re-election and defeat Donald Trump, but also has absolutely no chance of finishing out another 4-year term with any marbles remaining whatsoever, because they're fast diminishing. And the ones that are rattling around up there are not producing very impressive results. The bottom line is his own party, and now you see the conspirators. Julius Caesar had more loyal people surrounding him on the Ides of March. They all have the shivs out, ready to stick them in the back of the great leader, Joe Biden. And today, the first day back in Washington, is really calling that to order, as there is supposedly a contingent of Democrat senators that want to visit the White House and urge him to step aside. There was a conference call with all the leaders of the House of Representatives yesterday where everybody was expressing absolute lack of confidence that Biden has any chance whatsoever. It was tough already. He was behind in the polls before the debate, but he's been plunged into a deep, deep hole now that digging out of looks very difficult. Now, of course, you still have the voices of optimism, most of them with the last name of Biden. I've already talked about his biggest cheerleader and now political surrogate, with all of her wonderful credentials, with her teaching certificate, to be able to be the pseudo leader of the free world. I think I told you about Edith Wilson last week on the program. I'm not sure if it was this broadcast or another one, but Edith Wilson in the late 1910s, almost to 1920, Woodrow Wilson was president of the United States from 1916 to 1920. And in the last 7 months of his term was unfortunately the victim of a severe stroke after returning from peace talks and all the disastrous structure of the new League of Nations to basically punish Germany for their role in World War I and really set the stage for Germany's reascension and rise to military prominence under Hitler and caused World War II, basically, with the unreasonable situation that they created at the end of World War I. Wilson spent 5 or 6 weeks in Europe and came back exhausted and vulnerable, sickly already. He had a stroke and was totally debilitated, bedridden for the last 7 or 8 months of his presidency. But Edith Wilson wouldn't let anybody see him. She kept people that wanted to interact with the president at bay. And she basically, as first lady, ran the presidency with her husband unable to do so and restricted to bed rest. Edith Wilson was the unelected leader of the country. And I think Joe Biden is trying to do the sequel of the Wilson administration and be the modern day, ironically, just about 100 years exactly later, of kind of filling that role again. And not only that, you've got what Joe Biden describes as the smartest man he's ever met. And that would be his son, Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, since the debate, has been at Joe's side constantly on political trips, at the White House, in big meetings, even supposedly on some calls to world leaders and other key figures in this dynamic we call politics. Hunter Biden is now the right-hand man of the president, the smartest man he's ever met. Of course, Hunter's resume, not exactly what you want as your chief advisor. Hunter, a long-time serious drug addict, a guy that has already been convicted of lying to obtain a firearm that his girlfriend at that time, his dead brother's wife, actually was nervous that he had the gun. He was going to do harm to somebody else or himself. And she took it upon herself to throw it away in a public trash can in a park. You can't make this shit up. Basically, Hunter Biden, who also served on the board of Burisma, a giant energy company in Ukraine. Hunter Biden, no background in gas, oil, or any kind of energy. Just amazingly, during the Obama administration, appointed to the board of a Ukrainian energy company, while his father, Joe Biden, was put in charge by Obama of Ukraine policy. So he was overseeing everything in Ukraine, and his son shows up with an $87,000 a month job to be on the board of Burisma, I guess for his savvy experience and know-how, and the fact that he was really coming off a really good gig in the United States Navy, where he was dishonorably discharged for drug abuse, despite having several chances to get himself straight. They finally gave him the boot. Hunter Biden, with just a colorful resume. Of course, we don't need to talk about, we already had his scandalous affair with his brother Beau's wife, the dissolution of a couple of marriages, the dalliance with a stripper in Arkansas and Mississippi that produced a child that paternity tests revealed was definitely his little girl. Totally ignored her, wouldn't support her. The Biden family as a whole did not acknowledge her existence. This was offspring from Hunter Biden that they totally acted like didn't exist. So this is the guy of absolutely no integrity, no quality, no experience, no know-how. This is a guy who flew on Air Force Two with your tax dollars of money taken out of your check every week. He accompanied his father on trips to China and other places, of course, Ukraine, and basically was wheeling and dealing with leaders of corporations in these enemy countries that are not our friends, and coming up with deals for the what they describe as the Biden family business, which is very interesting because they don't have a product or a service. They had one thing to sell, and people that were partners with Hunter Biden have testified before Congress that the product absolutely positively of the Biden family business that created millions of dollars for the Biden family, the product and service was access and influence for the vice president of the United States, Joe Biden. That was what they were selling. That's what people were buying. And that undeniably, with 25 shell companies set up to disguise where the money was going from overseas, this is not speculation. This is all proven fact that this guy, who the Democrat leaders, while they try to stab him in the back because they think he's unelectable now, as they try to stab him in the back, every one of them says, this guy who's done so many great things for this country, who is an American hero, a man of great integrity and skill and all of the great accomplishments. Joe Biden never had a job in his entire life. He came out of college at the bottom of his class. He ran for a city council position and won it in his mid-20s. He somehow got on the ballot to run for Senate in his early 30s and won, actually was it was a congressional seat in the House, but in his 30s was elected both to Congress and the Senate. And he's been a Washington swamp creature for the last 50 years. He served as vice president under Obama. They thought that they needed his credentials as a former chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, although Washington insiders will tell you that Joe Biden's never been right on a single policy in terms of the foreign policy of the United States. But anyway, he was a good guy on the ticket. He was not going to crowd Obama at all in terms of intellectual turf, just a guy to kind of offset the fact that Obama himself had no international experience whatsoever. And basically, he served in that administration for 8 years. His presidency here has resulted in no real tangible results. They talk about all the accomplishments of this administration. I heard some Democrat hack the other night saying, well, Joe Biden has had probably the greatest presidency in the modern era. I don't know where they get that, because you, me, anybody on the street, and I thought this was telltale because, of course, on the partisan networks, they talk to Ben on the street, on CNBC, or actually MSNBC, or even the conventional channels, ABC, CBS. They'll talk to people and they'll only use the answers that are favorable to their agenda. Fox News, of course, guilty of the same thing. They might get 10 responses, and the 2 out of 10 that are positive are going to be the ones they air. That's just the way the game works. But there was, I came across online a guy that looked like he was not very partisan. He was just an influencer trying to make his name on social media. Did a man on the street thing, and I think it was a pretty good cross section of people. But he went into a very low economic neighborhood, I think in Chicago, and asked people on the street as they pass by in real time. It wasn't edited, I don't believe. I think it was pretty much back to back to back, because there was a lot of traffic on the street, and he talked to 10 or 12 people right in a row, seemingly without interruption. And you never know how a lot of that's manufactured. But I took it to be legitimate. And he asked people in this low economic community, name something that the Joe Biden administration has done favorably for you or this community in the last 3.5 years. And every single one of them had the same answer. Not a damn thing. He has done nothing for this community. He has done nothing for me. Prices are backbreaking. If you go to the grocery store now, it's literally 3 times more expensive for basic products than it was when this administration started. They talk about, and Joe Biden and his crowd talks about how former President Trump is just a liar with everything he says. But then Joe Biden will trot out there and say just matter of factly, well, we've done a great job bringing inflation down. When we came into office, it was at 9%. It was almost 9%. 0.9%. It was 0.8% inflation rate when the Biden administration came in and immediately shut off production of American energy and crippled the economy right from day one with executive orders, reversing everything that President Trump had put in to make America energy independent for the very first time in centuries. The bottom line is, the American people don't see accomplishment in this administration. The American people see 10 to 12 million illegal invaders who have been welcomed in carte blanche, handed a phone, given gift cards, free housing, free education. Why wouldn't they come from all corners of the world? It has not been a policy, and I cringe and even laugh at the same time every time somebody talks about, and this is on both sides, well, the administration has mismanaged the border. They haven't mismanaged it. They have intentionally created this policy in the warped hope that these people will be able to come in and change the dynamics of population in major cities, because you get more representatives and more electoral votes based on the amount of population that are in major parts of the country. And you can also beef up areas that you need more support by placing people in all corners of the country. And a lot of times, this has come along with fast tracking people to be able to attain citizenship. You don't even know about that dirty little secret. They fly in secretly people all the time, in addition to the people pouring across the border and this being dispatched to go do whatever they want to do. And of course, you've had the terrorist warnings continually reverberating from Christopher Wray, the FBI director who serves in this administration, a Trump appointee, saying we are in for a very serious terrorist incident because we've got a lot of really bad actors in the country. Gee, Christopher, thanks for the heads up. Maybe you should have thought about this and interceded when the administration that you represent has been letting these people just come in unchecked, unabated, and we don't know who they are or where they are. And I pray every night that my family is not directly affected and your family is not directly affected when they do something like compromise a nuclear power plant or poison some kind of major metropolitan city water supply. Something heinous is right around the corner, or they wouldn't be giving you the heads up. And the only reason they are giving you a heads up is things say, well, we warned everybody to be diligent, that the danger level was high. It is unacceptable, folks. And that reason alone is reason enough where this administration has got to go. They've got to go. Remember, Joe Biden was being investigated for the same thing that Donald Trump was indicted for. Trump, a former president, has all kinds of documents that he took with him from the White House, but as president, he is authorized to do so. He ran into a kerfuffle, supposedly, of certain documents that he didn't want to give back. He claims that he didn't deny giving them back, that he just didn't feel compelled to go out of his way to do so. So they indicted him on 30-something counts of improperly handling classified documents. In the meantime, Joe Biden, as a senator, took documents away from the Capitol building that were classified, that are not to leave those premises. They can only be viewed in private rooms called SCIFs. He had boxes and boxes of documents from his entire political career, including his vice president years. And once again, the vice president, by constitutional authority, has no right to possess those documents. He was clearly guilty of much worse charges charges than President Trump was indicted for. But the special counsel investigating him said, yes, he knowingly possessed these documents and knew it was improper. But because of his lapse of memory and his sympathetic advancing age, we're not able to recommend prosecution. Okay, so he's not competent to stand trial because of diminishing memory and lack of competence and lack of intellectual ability, but he's qualified to serve 4 more years as president. Game, set, match. That's the definitive definition. And now all of these congressmen and bureaucrats are rallying against him. Hey, Julius Caesar, come this way. We'll follow you into the chamber. Once again, all with all of their sharp objects drawn, ready to lower the boom on old Uncle Joe, because the bottom line is there are 2 things that are really working against him here, despite public opinion, even more so than public opinion. Number one, donors that think that it's a hopeless cause now and have been pouring millions and millions of dollars into this campaign are not going to be inclined to do so. If they call you today and say, hey, we want you to invest in this great new idea, we're going to build a whole bunch of condominiums that are going to be really substandard and they're going to fall apart and they're not really up to the chore. We want you to put a bunch of money in to bankroll our project. If it's a losing proposition and you're going to lose your backside, you're not going to contribute. You're already seeing big donors that traditionally put in millions of dollars saying, I'm not putting in any more money. I'm not backing this losing horse. And even more than that, the congressmen and senators and bureaucrats that are all massing now to oppose a Joe Biden candidacy and basically demand that he step aside are all doing it to save their own ass because they've got the greatest gig in the world. They're collecting all of our money from our taxes and bankrolling their lifestyle. They don't pay for anything. They live the life of absolute privilege. They fly home and gaslight their constituents. It's an effort to try to stay in office at any cost. And when their livelihood of being a professional politician in Washington, the greatest growth industry of all time, is threatened, they will turn on you faster than you can possibly imagine. And that's what they're doing to Biden now, because if he's weak at the top of the ticket, their seats are vulnerable and they just can't stand for that. They would rather do anything than lose the greatest gravy train seats ever devised. That's what you need to know. Watch the drama continue to unfold. There's all kinds of different things, different people involved in this highest of dramas. Joe Biden mumbles and stumbles and bumbles and insists that he's in it for the long haul. He can do 4 more years, no problem. I'm a little bit worried about the next 6 months, the rest of his term. This is the guy in charge. What do you think people in foreign shores, our enemies, are thinking? We gotta take some liberties. We got to get in action and push our agenda right now while the getting's good, while Uncle Joe, the most inept president in American history, who has now demonstrated to the world that he is so far gone, that he's completely incapable of being in this office. The things that keep me up at night: who's running the show, folks? Who's pulling the strings? If you think that this guy is the guy making the policies and making the decisions, do you think this guy just wrote a 5-page letter to Congress and the House of Representatives? Maybe they stamped his signature on it. This guy is incapable of any kind of logical thought. But what he is capable of is picking out what ice cream he wants every day and what time he's ready to settle down for his nap. If this is who you want in the White House, I really have to kind of question your your competency as well, because this is a situation that is unprecedented in American history. Edith Wilson looks like a genius compared to the present family in control of this country, and it's got to change. Again, this is not a campaign commercial for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has his own set of situations that are not ideal. But right now, anybody listening to this show, anybody that I go to the grocery store today and encounter in the aisles or see at work or in pursuits of any kind, I would say 98% of them are more qualified at this point to be the president, the commander in chief, the leader of the free world than the guy that's sitting in that chair right now. And I sincerely believe that. And it's something that everybody needs to be aware of, and do your own research, your own reading, and reach your own conclusions. This is a terrifying situation. Uncle Joe has to go. That was the line in today's New York Post, and I hereby support and endorse this message. So thanks for tuning in. TKR, thank you for giving me the forum for Weekly Need to Know, and we will be with you again next week at this same time. Don't miss Keefer and Kurre this week. Tony and I, kind of like Forrest Gump and his box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get. And in that same vein, the starting lineup Saturday mornings, 10:30 a.m. on ABC 3340 Birmingham, also on our YouTube channel and right here on TKR. Do not miss a single episode, because you never know who's going to be in the starting lineup. Have a great week, everybody. Get your popcorn, get your Raisinets, enjoy the show. It is unprecedented in American history. Take good care, everybody, and God bless you.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.